I'm ready whenever you want some feedback.
We're on.
Okay, Melody, you okay?
Yes.
Okay, this is Commissioner Rich Barton for the Planning and Zoning, and tonight we'd like to open up our February the 4th Planning and Zoning meeting. And the first order of business will be turning over the floor to Mr. Graville.
Thank you. Unexpectedly brought to our attention by one of the applicants here tonight, which I appreciate his forthrightness about allowing us to know what's going on. Our website is currently crashed, which has our links to the Zoom meetings here for tonight, which includes the 2 public hearings. The COVID pandemic has forced us to go online and do these hearings via Zoom. And these links for Zoom links are incredibly important, so the public has a right to speak. My suggestion to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I want to get the applicant, one of the public hearings on tonight is a telecommunications tower in small cell wireless, which is a staff recommended change. The other one involves an applicant. One of these is being removed from the agenda, but one of them is, was scheduled to be heard tonight, and that's no fault of the applicants. However, I do think it's important to make the statement that, access to these meetings is very important because you can't show up and be at them. So my suggestion would be, and I'd like to get some feedback from Mr. Corman, is we open the public hearing tonight because it was properly advertised and the notices did go out. It is a legal public hearing. However, I know that there's a lot of interest in this project. My suggestion would be to the Planning and Zoning Commission that we open the public hearing and then continue the public hearing to the next meeting and give an opportunity for anybody additionally that wants to speak on this to speak at that continued public hearing. But I don't want to waste everybody's time that's here tonight, that is here to speak, and give them the opportunity to go on the record. The entirety of that public hearing will be part of the consideration of the rezone request, so there would be no decision made tonight. But it would allow us to capture everybody that's on here tonight that may be unavailable at the next meeting. Mr. Corman, do you have any thoughts on that?
That is almost exactly what I had a conversation with Mr. Jeff Keevan about. And we would like to start the public hearing tonight because we know there are people on, get those public comments on record and have that discussion. But knowing that we also have another item next month to continue this public hearing till next month, and maybe that shortens up, one or the other by getting some of it done tonight, but it also allows for good discussion throughout the process. So what you suggested the board is what I was going to recommend, and what I've got my client to agree with. So we're good if everybody else is good.
Yeah, and I think somebody sent a message about call-in because there's a problem with the link. So for whatever reasons, we're having some technical difficulties, but it is a properly advertised public hearing. Public hearings don't anticipate Zoom to be part of it. So I think it would be prudent, and my recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commissioner and Commission and you, Chairman Barton, is that you go ahead and open this the 3 public hearings that we have on for tonight. We open them and then continue them and keep them open for comments at the next meeting, and then close the public hearing at the next meeting, and then close the public hearing at the next meeting, and then have the discussion and vote at the next meeting. There was another question that was presented in the chat from Mavis. When will the Board of Aldermen meeting be? That Board of Aldermen meeting will be delayed. Brandy, I don't know if you have the schedule when that, we're going to delay this, when that will go on.
So it'll have to, we were originally going to have it at the next Board of Aldermen meeting. Now it's going to have to be in March. And that would be either March 2nd or March 16th, but it kind of depends on the applicant now.
Yeah.
One on the 15th.
Okay. All right. So if you can, Chairman, if you can talk to the commissioners and see if they want to adopt that recommendation. And then if so, we can go ahead and proceed and open these public hearings. And then, before we close the individual public hearings, call for a vote to continue that public hearing to the date of the next Planning and Zoning meeting. And we'll take any additional input.
Thank you, Mr. Graville. All right, to everybody that's on board there with the commissioners, does anybody have any concern with what was discussed between Mr. Corman and Mr. Graville?
No concern.
Hearing none, we'll move forward then. Okay, hearing none, we'll move forward with opening up the public hearings for tonight. When we're done, we will not close them. We'll just table them till the next meeting, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the meeting. So our first public hearing will be section 405.280 telecommunication towers and facilities amendment -115. Mr. Gravelle, you want to bring us up to speed?
Yes, thank you. And just so there are a lot of people on here. There are a couple of people that,
Doesn't surprise.
okay, I can hear people that are not muted. And I know that there's some chat comments about doesn't surprise me, and we can read those as well. But if you guys can mute your phones if you're not voting, so you don't interrupt the public hearings, that would be fantastic. I think there's a phone number here, 314-504-443. I'm sorry, 314-504-4384. Can you please mute? Or Brandy, can you mute them? Because there we go. Okay, thank you. All right, so first public hearing we have tonight is section 405.280 telecommunication towers and facilities, ADM 115. This is a staff initiated text amendment to the zoning code. For purposes of this public hearing, I'd ask the comprehensive plan of the city of Warrenton be made a part of the record by reference. The zoning code of the city of Warrenton and the duly advertised public hearing for this public hearing tonight, published in the Warren County Record, which is part of the planning packet that has been distributed. Finally, I'd ask the planning and zoning commissioners or the staff report from Timothy Burks be made a part of the record by reference. Essentially what this is, to not bog down, is I'm sure the planning and zoning commissioners have had a chance to probably peruse this very interesting detailed ordinance change. This is essentially an update that was directed by the Board of Aldermen when we were making some changes to our zoning code, when we realized our telecommunication towers was a little bit out of date with current state law. So essentially this updates it. I'm sure much to the chagrin of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the state of Missouri and the General Assembly continue to take away the city's ability to regulate the size and the location of large-scale telecommunication antennas. We can no longer regulate and require them to be disguised anymore, or regulate various aspects of co-location. However, the purpose of this amendment is to make sure that we preserve what land use rights we have with regards to these structures. So I'm here to answer any questions about it. I know a lot of it's very technical. A lot of it's straight from the recent updates to the state statute, but I can't answer any questions if anybody has any comments.
Welcome anybody's comments at this time. State your name before you start talking so we can get it for the record, please. Hearing none, we will not close that public hearing. We'll just leave it open until the next meeting in case someone wants to come back with questions. Correct, Mr.
Chairman? Yes, Chairman Barton, I'd ask you to call for a motion to postpone or to continue the public hearing for ADM 115 to Brandy. What date is that? What's the next planning and zoning date?
That one is going to go on March 2nd.
Okay.
To
So
March
I'll
2nd, 2020 for continuation of the public hearing.
entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until the next meeting, March 2nd.
So moved.
I'm sorry.
have
The
a
next,
Should be March 4th.
I'm sorry. The next planning and zoning meeting is going to be March 4th.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Deitch to postpone this until, to not really postpone it, but to table it till March the 4th meeting, a continuation for anyone else to speak. Seconded by who was that?
Me, Mr. Costello.
Mr. Costello seconded that motion. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote. Roll call
Melody?
vote on the motion.
Mr. Deitch,
Yes.
Mr. Collum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Durbin, Mr. Durbin is, I guess, gone. Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Yes.
Mr. Holt,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 with one gone hiding and 2 vacancies. Next order of business will be our second public hearing, and that's section 405.281, construction and deployment of small wireless facilities, amendment -116. Mr. Graville?
Thank you, Chairman Barton. As a preliminary matter, I'd ask the municipal code of the city of Warrenton be made a part of the record by reference. The planning and zoning officer's report dated February 4th, 2021, including the public hearing publication that is part of the packet in the Warren County Record for tonight's public hearing, and the comprehensive plan of the city of Warrenton be made a part of the record by reference. Once again, this is a staff-initiated text change. This is related to the deployment of small cell wireless facilities. A lot of people know them as the 5G small cell wireless facilities. There were changes in the General Assembly last year with regards to the ability of a city to limit and zone these small cell wireless facilities in both residential and commercial locations. This is a code update to once again make sure that we have as many tools in the toolbox to protect the residential neighborhoods and to with what little protections we have to protect residential neighborhoods in with these facilities, from these facilities, and also to force these facilities to enter into agreements with the city for long-term maintenance and service. I can answer any questions about these. I can say that we had one small cell wireless co-location come in last year on Highway 47. That was approved pursuant to an agreement with the city. But this is just formalizing the requirements and that they're going to have to meet under our municipal ordinance. And it's pretty much the most we can get out of the current iteration of state statute. With that, I have no further comments, and I can answer any questions of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Graville. Anybody on the commission have any questions or comments at this time for Mr. Graville?
No questions. I was just checking to see if I'm coming through.
You are back on.
Dan
Mr.
Durbin.
Thank you. Gotcha. So, Mr. Durbin, if you weren't aware of what we're doing, we're going to take a motion to table this to the next meeting, which will be on March the 4th. So if there's no question or comments at this time for Mr. Graville about this, I'll entertain a motion to table this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to table the public hearing for section 405.281 to the next P and Z meeting to be held March 4th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Costello.
I'll second it.
And who is that?
Mike Cooper.
Mr. Cooper, thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Cooper to table the 405.281 construction or deployment of small wireless facilities amendment -116 to the next meeting on March the 4th. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mr. Deitch,
yes,
Mr. Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Durbin,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0 with 2 vacancies. Next public hearing will be the Country Lake Estates zone change ZC-65. Mr. Graville?
Thank you. The next one we have is the Country Lake Estate Zone Change ZC 65. The request for this is submitted by the Keevan Family Partnership, location of 2025 Zumbel Road, PMB 70, St. Charles, Missouri 63383. This is a 29.1 acre plat of land along Westwood Drive and southwest of the Country Lakes Golf Course. They've submitted an application for a change of zoning from ag to R2. As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I'd ask that the comprehensive plan be made a part of the record by reference, including the future land use map. The city municipal code be made a part of the record by reference, and the February 4th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting report submitted by city staff be made a part of the record by reference. The subject site is considered in the future land use map as residential, single family residential. The proposed use of R2 is consistent with the future land use map. Staff is recommending, has reviewed the request and is recommending approval of the R2 medium density single family residential district. I have no further comments about it. I know Mr. Corman is on here and is going to address some questions that have been sent to the city as well.
Right. So is it my turn to talk then?
Yeah, can you state your name
Sure.
for the record?
For the record, Bart Corman, Lewis and Beatty Surveyors and Engineers, here representing the Keevan Family Partnership on the 29.18 acres that was recently annexed, and this request to R2. It connects up to some of the other property that we rezoned a few months back, and then it also connects to some stuff that we have a request in next month to rezone as well. So looking at doing single family residential on the 29.18 acres. And so that's what we're asking for. There's some concerns about connectivity that were brought up. And so I even submitted a little colored map to Tim, the planning and zoning coordinator with the city, showing a rough concept of what we got looking at to connect up to the public access.
Randy, can you pull that up?
Yeah, if you want to pull that up so everybody kind of sees what I'm talking about there.
Can you explain that, please, Mr. Corman?
Sure. So on the left side there, in the orange outline, that's Plat 1 that was recently annexed a few months ago and rezoned a few months ago. And so we have plans for subdivision there, what I call Plat 1. And it'll have a road going north-south and a stub to the east. And then we'll continue that road on eastwardly over to Country Lake Drive through a master concept that we're working on. So this is a kind of taking an old pencil sketch or an old sketch and then a pencil sketch on top of it, but showing that connectivity that's needed for emergency vehicles, traffic dilution, and for access for everybody to have. So that's what we're planning on doing to this point. Obviously, there's still a preliminary plat process and a construction plan process and a final plat process to go through all that. But we're more than glad to show you what we're thinking. Obviously, it could change a little bit as we get through the more detailed design, but that's kind of what we're looking at this point, and want to share that with you and answer any questions that you may have on that.
Thank you, Mr. Corman. I'll open it up to anybody on the commission right now to ask any question right now.
Is that green? Is that going to be a road going through all of that?
Yes. Yeah. So yes. So the green highlight is my connected roads. And so I got arrows going to the north and to the northeast, and then Country Lake Drive obviously connects out and it's got an arrow there. So those would connect on as well. But yeah, the green is conceptually where a road would be.
Okay.
The little curved section in green on the left side, and then the green heading up what might be north where the arrow is pointing. What are those roads? I'm presuming they're roads. I can't, on my computer, it's very light, so I can't make it out. Or maybe it's just because I'm old, but
Sure, those roads are not there. They're proposed roads for a subdivision plat. So the only roads there that are highlighted in green are Country Lake Drive and Sunnyside Road. Sunnyside Road's in the lower left corner.
that's,
in an
that's
arc.
the curved section.
That's the curved section.
All right,
And then Country Lake Drive is all the way to the right of the page.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Corman.
You're welcome.
Does that dump out on Double M down there then?
Yeah, so Country Lake Drive ties into Lakeview Drive, I guess, or whatever it's called, and then into Double M. Yes, that's how the golf course is accessed currently.
Right. That's what that road represents.
Yeah, and part of the green in the middle there, actually through this track that we're asking for rezone, basically follows a cart path. That's kind of off the golf course, but there's a cart path there. So if you pull up an aerial, you'll kind of see that. And so we're trying to match that up a little bit.
That's funny.
Anybody else have any questions right now?
From the public or from the commission?
I was going to wait for the commission, but
Go ahead. No, that's fine.
Well, and I want to make sure it's clear for this record that this is not an opportunity to ask Mr. Corman questions directly, and it's not a question and answer. You can ask
Right.
questions to Mr. Corman, he can bring answers back, but it's not a direct, the commission, you cannot see it because we're not all sitting up at the dais.
right.
It is a presentation in front of them. So I just want to make sure that's clear. So we don't get into a back and forth. That's not the purpose of this public hearing. And if there's questions that people have, Mr. Corman, I'd ask you not to try to answer them. You can bring answers back when you present next public hearing.
Apologize for that.
That's fine. Okay. Who's asking for a?
This is David Davis. I'll go ahead and ask my question if that's
Go
all
ahead,
right.
Mr. Davis.
Okay.
State your name, David Davis, for the record. Thank you.
David Davis for the record.
Okay.
So yeah, this is directed to Bart Corman. The horizontal line extending from the 11.98 acres that were annexed and rezoned in the city back in October, that extends across Westwood Drive and onto the new proposed rezoning areas that we're looking at on this map. It crosses Westwood Drive north of, I think that's Andrew Polston's house. I understand Mr. Eberhardt's property, which is a small triangular property at the top end of that rezone request, is not part of this. How do you intend for Mr. or you or Kevens, and I don't expect you to answer this right now because we don't want any back and forth, but how do the developer and Mr. Eberhardt intend to have access out on Westwood Drive when that road is going across to connect to the property to the west of the golf course, and without giving access to the 11.9 acres to come down Westwood Drive, which they don't have an easement for? Now, I think everybody in the commission did get a copy, hopefully, from one of the landowner's attorneys concerning this very issue, that there were no easements for that Westwood Drive to be used by anything other than the property owners that are there now. It looks to me like now this access is going to be given to not only the 11.9 acres to the west that was annexed in October, but also the planning and zoning's approval of the rezoning of the property for all the condominiums on the right hand of this. It looks to me like they would have access off Westwood Drive. Is that the intent? And you don't have to answer it right now. That's my
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Davis. All right. Anybody on the commission at this point have any other comments? All right. Anyone else from the community that has a comment at this time?
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Yeah, sure. It's Jean Knock.
Okay, Ms. Knapp.
Okay, so basically no questions are going to be answered.
Right, tonight, yeah. But he'll bring answers back the next time, hopefully, when we table this till the next meeting, yes.
So basically this is just showing what you're going to do, and then
There will be no vote tonight, though.
there'll be no vote, but this is the intention.
Right.
Well, I guess there can be no comments since we can't get any answers to anything. So,
Well, if you can make your comment, then he'll take it and address it at the next meeting, and could save some time if he knows ahead of time some of the concerns that the people have.
well, I think it's kind of obvious that now we're going from 30 or 50 houses to now, what is it, 150 that are potentially going to be dumping onto Sunnyside.
Plus condominium.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically deciding to destroy a neighborhood, understanding that rooftops are the predominant focus here, but it's rooftops in the city, and it just seems at some point in time there has to be some sort of compensation for existing neighborhoods to put this amount of load onto an existing established neighborhood that is far from, most of those are starter homes that are along Sunnyside. It's obviously it's a real point of concern. And we talked about it when it was just the 12 acres, and now we're loading on a whole nother section there. So that would be my comment and concern. And hopefully when you come back, you can say it probably doesn't matter, but at least I got my 2 cents worth in.
Sure. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you for your concern.
Alrighty.
And Chairman Barton, just for
Yes.
purposes, I know there's a lot of people that have not been on public hearings for planning and zoning. We don't typically get this much citizen participation, but I want to make sure it's clear. When I say this is not a back and forth, this is an opportunity for the public to be heard and for them to give their statements or the objections, just like the lady just gave. It's not intended to be a back and forth. It's exactly what was just said. The traffic and whatnot for the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider those comments. So I just want to make sure it's clear that it's not, Mr. Corman can answer questions. He's not required to. I would imagine he'll probably answer them coming back, since we've continued this public hearing, the next one, but it's not a back and forth, and that's by state statute. That is not some idea or concept just in the city of Warrenton.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Graville. Stating that, is there anybody else that had any concerns at this time tonight?
All right, this is David Avis again. I'd like to ask one more question then. On the map we're looking at, there is a line drawn through, a green line running vertically off of Sunnyside through the 11.98 acres that were rezoned back in October or whenever it was. And there's an arrow at the very top. I think that's an arrow drawn on there. Is that, I'd like Mr. Corman to explain what that means and what the intention there is for connector to where.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Anyone else tonight? Ms. Walters or Ms. Rude, do you guys have anybody that's?
I do not.
Melody?
Yes, this is Ben Avis.
Oh, Mr. Davis. Okay, Ben Davis, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to ask this group of planning and zoning, as well as the Board of Aldermen, how many more, I know you don't like the low income, but this starter homes are we going to surround Warrenton with before we start looking at larger homes on larger acreage? It seems like we're trying to pack as many homes in the smallest amount of space. And I just, for the life of me, if you come out and look on Sunnyside Road, we don't have that kind of population density out here. And I'd like to know how many more starter homes are we going to have before we decide it's done? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Anyone else tonight? All right, so hearing no more comments tonight.
Mr. Barton,
Yes, go ahead.
I can answer some of those questions tonight, or if you want to.
Mr. Graville, what would you like?
I think it may be helpful to answer some of those questions if
Okay,
Mr.
that's
Corwin
fine.
wants to. I just, I just,
Sure.
like I said, I
Didn't want it back and
would say
forth.
this, Chairman, yes, if he answers the question, I'd ask we move on to continuing it.
Okay.
And then we can kind of I'm sure there will be some re-questioning of it in the
Sure.
follow-up and, we can know that everybody received notice.
That's right. I understand that. Go ahead, Mr. Corman. You got the floor.
No problem. Thanks. And that way, some of these questions stay fresh. So
Sure.
one question was, how do we intend to have access across Westwoods? And between the Keevan Family Partnership and Scott Keevan, they own the property underneath that. And so right there, it would basically be a four-way interchange. So it'd probably be stop signs all directions. And so the people that have access to Westwoods would still be able to go through there. They just got to cross just like the cart path does now. So that's what that would be. And in reality, once you do paved city streets, most likely, those folks that are on Westwoods that have access rights will probably use that because it's probably going to be in better condition and travel smoother, but that's, that'd be their prerogative and they'd be able to do so. And so that's what it would do. So that's not a huge concern.
Well, I'm sorry, can I just ask a question concerning
No,
that?
Mr. Avis, I'd ask that you save your question for the continuation of the public hearing,
Right.
please. This is what I was trying to avoid. So
Right.
that-
Go ahead, Mr. Corman.
Sure. Another question was, is the green arrow going to the north?
Yes.
We can connect that up to where the actual golf course is and the holes there. If that ever gets redeveloped other than a golf course, because the city likes connectivity, emergency services like connectivity. And so we're planning some connectivity there. We could just as easily cul-de-sac that off and not have that connectivity. But most planning prefers some things like that. So that's totally possible to do so. Could we coordinate a different location? That we could, but that ground to the north is owned by the Keevan family. So might as well connect into somebody that's willing to have that connectivity. So that's what that is. Another question is concerned about starter homes. That is what the Planning and Zoning Board gets to address, but also where the market is. That's if starter homes weren't selling, probably people wouldn't be building starter homes. There's a lot of other homes out there too, but that's the real estate market, and it's kind of crazy right now. Whether it's starter homes or second homes or larger homes on larger acreage. When you do development though, if you invest in the infrastructure such as sewer and water and public streets, usually you need to get enough density to make it profitable. And so in this area with the lot prices that they are still at this point, most of my clients are still looking at the 8,400 to 10,000 square foot lots, to get it to a returnable adventure. So that's where we're at this point. And there's, like I've said in the past, there's not a whole lot of gradual steps within Warrenton's zoning code. So R2 is pretty much what everybody can. Doesn't mean that you have to be at the minimum on every single lot, and probably won't. But that's what we have as an option, and that's the option we're requesting.
Thank you, Mr. Corman. Did you have anything else, Mr. Corman?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right, Commission, I'll give you one more time, Commissioner, if anybody had a comment. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to post or to table this until the next meeting, but at least this gives everybody a chance to take in what was talked about tonight and bring back their discussion again at the next meeting. So entertain a motion.
Chairman Barton, can we make sure that motion is continue the public hearing to the March 4th
Fourth.
planning and
Yep.
zoning meeting?
Yep.
Make a motion to, this is Mike Cooper, make a motion to postpone or move this.
Continue,
Table this,
Continue.
continue.
continue. Okay. This
Public
amendment
hearing.
to the March 4th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
This
there a
is
second?
Dan Durbin. I'll second the meeting, or
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
second the
Durbin.
motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Durbin to continue the public hearing on Country Lake Estates zone change -65 until the March 4th meeting. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Durbin,
Yes,
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Yes.
Mr. Holt,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mr. Deitch.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0, and that'll come up on March the 4th. Thank you for everyone for their public comments tonight, and we'll look forward to hearing you back on March the 4th. And hopefully we'll have all the issues fixed with the computers. Or maybe we might even be in a meeting one of these days, face to face. So, Mr. Graville.
So we're finished with the public hearings and public comment. Chairman Barton, I'd ask we approve the minutes. Did you guys already approve the minutes from January?
That's what I'll do next, and then.
And then we'll just make a motion to continue agenda item 2, 3, and 4 to the
Sounds good.
March 4th public hearing.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we'll, again, I appreciate everyone for their public comments tonight. And so now we'll just open up a regular meeting for the planning and zoning. And we'll, first order of business will be our minutes from our last meeting, which was January the 7th.
Move to accept the meeting. This
Okay.
is Mike.
Mr.
Move to
Cooper?
accept the meeting. The minutes as read.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Have a motion by Mr. Cooper, second by Mr. Deitch to approve the minutes as submitted. Any other questions or comments at this time? Roll call vote.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Yes.
Mr. Holt,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mr. Deitch,
Yes.
Mr. Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Durbin.
yes,
Motion passes 8-0 with 2 vacancies. And at this time, we'd like to entertain a motion to table the items number 2, 3, and 4 from tonight's meeting to the March 4th meeting.
I'll make a motion that we table items 2, 3, and 4 of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting until the March 4th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Seconded by
Mike Cooper.
Mr.
Second.
Cooper. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Costello, seconded by Mr. Cooper to table the 2nd, 3rd, 4th agenda items for tonight's meeting until the March 4th meeting. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mr. Deitch,
Yes.
Mr. Cullum,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Durbin,
yes,
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. So we'll close the meeting and ask any Brandy or Melody or Mr. Graville or Mr. Burks if he's there. Anybody have any comments for us tonight? We know we'll have a meeting next month.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there'll be other things on the agenda, hopefully by then as well. I did have one question that was brought up to me. What's going on AA with the complex over there, that the apartment complex that's kind of been stalled? Is that just weather related?
I believe so. I don't
Okay,
know if he's on here. I'm pretty sure he's on here, but I believe it is just weather related because he's been going strong.
okay. Just didn't know for sure, so. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the group tonight? Hearing none, Mr. Deitch, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded by,
Mike Cooper.
all right, Mr. Cooper's on board tonight. Mr. Deitch made a motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Cooper. All in favor, say aye.
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 Have a great week. Stay warm this week. Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for everybody at the city staff for getting this work done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.